Well, welcome into another emergency edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We're coming live because news just dropped. John Harbaugh out as Ravens head coach after 18 seasons at the helm, the second longest tenured head coach currently in the NFL, behind only division rival Mike Tomlin. He was Super Bowl 47 champion. He was 2019 Coach of the Year. He had 180 wins, most in Ravens history. And the Ravens now, one of the pinnacles of stability throughout the NFL. Two coaches this millennium. Since 1999, it's been only Brian Billick and John Harbaugh. Well, they're about to get a third.
I felt like this was coming, but it still feels shocking to see. And I think a large part of it is because, like you said, John Harbaugh has been a mainstay in the NFL. You can't think of the NFL without thinking of John Harbaugh coaching the Ravens. You think of John Harbaugh versus Mike Tomlin, and now we're not getting that anymore. It feels sort of shocking, but also when you watch this team, it felt like this team just didn't have it from a procedural, from a high leverage situation standpoint, and that stuff falls onto coaching. So I'm really curious what was happening behind the scenes in Baltimore this year, and I'm sure we'll get a story like that coming in the next few weeks or months. But I am so curious about this Ravens job because it immediately jumps to the top of any coaching list.
Yeah, this isn't too surprising given the smoke that was around them. The article that Mike Preston of the Baltimore Sun wrote a few weeks back detailing that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh had been at odds. The Reddit post, I don't know, did you see the Reddit post about the Ravens like mid-season from a former girlfriend of a Ravens player detailing that a lot of Ravens players, allegedly, this was a post on Reddit from an anonymous person saying they wanted John Harbaugh gone, and just kind of the haplessness of this year's Ravens team, even when Lamar Jackson was back. Like, it was nowhere near the team we saw in 2024, nowhere near the team we thought we were going to get this year when the roster looked even better. Now, injuries are a big factor there. A lot of things went down, but it did seem like whatever John Harbaugh's messaging has been was falling on deaf ears at this point.
Yeah, it felt like this team, like I said, it felt like they had just been sort of sleepwalking through the year. After Nnamdi Madubuike went down, and after Lamar Jackson got hurt the first time, it just felt like this team was, like you said, hapless. This team lacked energy. And you should never say that about a team with Lamar Jackson, Kyle Hamilton, all these premium players at premium positions. You should not be saying that this team is hapless or has no energy, even though, like, they were a missed kick away from making the playoffs. And part of me believes that even if they made that kick, it felt like John Harbaugh's time as the head coach of the Ravens was up. And that's okay.
Ravens now, in my opinion, I'm guessing you agree, they vault to the top
by
of
far
the rankings of where, head coaching destinations. I think the cream of the crop, they're all going to be holding out to see if they get the Ravens offer first, right? Your Clint Kubiaks of the world, your Jesse Minters of the world, your Kevin Stefanskis of the world, whoever you think is the best head coaching candidate. I'm guessing they want to go to Baltimore for, one, the reason I already said off the top, they've had two coaches in 26 seasons now. You always want to go to a stable organization. You always want that kind of job security. Two, you have a franchise two-time MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who still has 2 years left on his deal. It's not like he's going anywhere anytime soon. And three, you go through and look at this roster and what they're losing in free agency or what they potentially could lose. It's Tyler Linderbaum. It's Daniel Falele. Not sure that's a loss. It's Isaiah Likely. It's Ardarius Washington. It's Kyle Van Noy. It's not a lot of key pieces to this roster. I think the core is still there, and you're getting some pieces hopefully back from injury as well, to where quick turnaround, shoot, you could be a first-year coach here and win the Super Bowl. That's how good this Ravens team still could be next year. And so for all those reasons, it's like, I think this will be in demand going forward.
I also think there could be a little bit, I think there's a chance to question Renner Acosta, the GM of the Ravens, especially when it came to the team building aspect, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It still feels like this team is built exclusively, like, of course you want to build it around your quarterback, but the best teams, even with the star quarterbacks, are able to survive even if the quarterback is off. And it felt like this Ravens team didn't really have that. It feels like the receiver room is sort of one-dimensional. Like they're
Oh
all
my God,
vertical.
so one-dimensional.
Vertical
I think they built it. Yeah, they built it around, and I think it was somewhat smart team building, but to not have depth, I think, was the problem. To like have your depth be guys like Devontae Walker, who are literally still the same. To not have even another flavor on your depth. But like when Lamar can buy time the way he can, you want guys who can just get open down the football field, right? Like, because you're going to have the time to run those routes. So I think I can't criticize them for that too much, because like I love the way they built it, but to not have the depth, I think, is where I criticize.
And I think that lack of depth also showed up this season on defense. You know, you love that you can move Kyle Hamilton in different spots to kind of shore up all these problems. But I think the drawback of moving Kyle Hamilton around to shore up all these problems is you never actually solve the problem. You know, you're just like, yeah, it's like Flex Seal. Like, put some Kyle Hamilton on it. We'll make sure it's fine for now. Their defensive line depth has taken a major hit over the last few years, especially with Nnamdi Madubuike out. The future of Nnamdi Madubuike still feels up in the air. And I think that's going to be the first thing that has to get ironed out if you're a head coach of the Ravens, is what's happening there. Your edge depth has been really bad this season. It was awful this season. And then you really can't rely on most of your corners because they can't stay healthy. Nate Wiggins has been in and out of games. Marlon Humphrey's been in and out of games. Chidobe Awuzie is not the player that he once was. So you still need depth at all these spots, despite being a talented team. But the best teams in the NFL are the ones that have that depth, that they can rotate guys in and not miss a beat.
I still do think Eric Toss is a good GM, but the single biggest area where he has been bad, not even just like struggled, bad, is his evaluation of edge prospects, their ability in the draft. Where Ozzie Newsome, like, you think of the Ravens historically, and it's something I used to say a lot, especially under Ozzie Newsome, it's like the Ravens could always get that day 2, day 3 edge guy to be productive. Whether it's, you know, guys like Za'Darius Smith, Pernell McPhee, it seemed like they always had someone in that mold that was ultimately, you know, in a rotation being very productive for them. You go back and look at Eric Toss's top 100 picks on the edge. Jalen Ferguson in 2019, his very first draft, did absolutely nothing. He didn't even last through his entire rookie contract in the league. You had Odafe Owe, his only first rounder. They traded him away for pennies this year. David Ojabo, the injury risk they took didn't pay off for them. Adisa Isaac, another top 100 picks, done nothing. And then Mike Green, too early to really say, but the early returns, he didn't do much for them this year as a rookie. So I love the pick. I still think he's going to be good, but like, you have to say that they have not been able to draft and do what Ozzie Newsome continually used to do. And that's why the defense was just not good this year.
Yeah. And it's sort of, in a way, this season was good for the Ravens to really sort of find out, like, look, this team is too fragile without Lamar Jackson being healthy, without Lamar Jackson at 100%. We have seen the flaws of this team. Even when Lamar was healthy, they could not get a stop this year. And part of that is because of Zach Orr, but part of that is because this defense couldn't win up front with pass rush. And if you can't win up front rushing the passer, if you can't stop the run, it's hard to win a lot of football games. You're going to give up 40 points a game. So I'm really curious to see what happens team building wise for this Ravens team in the post Harbaugh era. But the coaching, you could go get any coach in the world if you wanted to and offer them a check to go coach for the Ravens. I would bet at least maybe like 28, 27 of the 32 coaches in the NFL would take the Ravens job right now.
Yes. It's an attractive one. Jonathan just said that John Harbaugh should be petty and go coach for the Browns. We'll discuss where John Harbaugh should go, if he should go somewhere this year or if he should hold off, do the year off thing that's in vogue as well right now, right after a quick break.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
No. That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+. Let's
start with what we want to see John Harbaugh do first, and then we'll transition back to the Ravens and talk about who we most want to see for them. But let's start with John. Where, if anywhere, is the best fit for him to go next season?
This is the most Las Vegas Raiders head coach ever. That was the first thing I thought after Harbaugh's fired. He's going to go coach the Raiders Because if you think about what Tom Brady wants in like stability, bringing culture, something that he thought they were getting in Pete Carroll, I think John Harbaugh offers that, but also was more recently coaching. You know, like he didn't just go and get a guy who was in the front office. So I think John Harbaugh feels like the most like a Raiders coach ever. I think the stability, I think the rapport with Tom Brady, there's obviously a connection there with them having played each other for a good part of a decade. So I think the Raiders are really in play here. The Dolphins did just they just interviewed somebody who's very high up in the Ravens front office. I'm not saying they fire McDaniel because John Harbaugh is now available, but I also am saying that Stephen Ross is one to make a lot of rash decisions. Stephen Ross, also a Michigan man. I'm just saying, like, it's right there. Everything is right there to make that move. But if he doesn't get those two jobs, honestly, just sit out for a year. I think the best thing for him would be to sit out for a year. But when the NFL calls, it's 1 of 32. Like, I'm sure he's going to take a job if it's offered to him.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me. Stephen Ross, he's been known to scheme some things behind the scenes, as we've found out via numerous occasions there in Miami. I'm looking at these head coaching openings, and I said on today's show earlier today, I was like, none of these are that attractive. Outside of the Falcons, which is they're still not in a great team building spot in terms of you don't have a first round pick this year. You don't have a lot of cap space. They're not going to get night and day better overnight. It would not surprise me if he takes a year off. It would not surprise me if he sits on the sidelines, because a head coach at that level, like, he's going to get an offer whenever. And I think he jumps to the top of the heap of the most attractive head coaches. So if it's not Atlanta, to me, I would love to see him in Las Vegas. I agree. Like, there's
Jim
a lot
versus
of
John 2 times a year.
Exactly. Like it'd be the best coach division in NFL history. Like it would truly be exceptional to watch week in and week out the AFC West. But I just feel like he's going to hold out for the perfect opportunity, something that opens up that's really a historically stable franchise, has a lot more pieces in place that he can seamlessly go in there and know that, he could do everything right in Las Vegas, and 3 years from now, it not work out. Right. It feels like a difficult spot. So that in my head, I think John Harbaugh I think it's a year off.
True. But I also think I'm leaning more into the Atlanta aspect of this, because even if he wants to like sort of coast and take a year off, again, it's the NFC South. You could sleepwalk to a division title. The Falcons almost sleepwalked to a division title this year. And I think that gives him the easiest path to success, to basically owning a division. And with all of the sort of question marks around every other team in that division, we don't know if Todd Bowles is going to get fired. Like the jury's still out on the Saints. The Panthers made the playoffs, but barely. It feels like with Atlanta's talent, I think John Harbaugh is a good coach to get them over the top. But then you begin to ask the question of how far can this team go with this version of John Harbaugh?
Yeah, someone who I don't know who just said in the chat there, but they said, imagine if John Harbaugh takes over for Mike Tomlin in 2027. That would be, I mean, he could have, if he takes a year off, he could have either the Steelers or the Bengals job potentially there in the AFC North. Not sure he'd want the Bengals
to the Ravens,
but that's definitely talk about stability. If he gets a Bengals job, I don't think they'd ever fire him, since they don't fire coaches. But let's go back to the Ravens for a sec. And who in your mind is 1A, the guy that they should be going after for this head coaching opening now?
Well, there are two. There's 1A and 1B. 1A to me is Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Chargers. If you want to just keep all of the defensive language similar to what Mike McDonald had, what Zach Orr had, and I believe it's different. It's different the way he calls it, but if you want a similar defense, similar structure, I think Jesse Minter's done a really good job, basically sort of drawing blood from a stone when it comes to that defensive line, creating impact players up front, and I think he would do a lot of world of help for the youth on that Ravens defense. And it's still up in the air in terms of what he would do offensive wise, like who would be his offensive coordinator hire. But with Lamar Jackson, that gives you a really, really wide margin for error when it comes to an offensive coordinator. The second one I'm thinking is Brian Flores. I think he is the most like culturally AFC North, like from defense, the physicality. He's been a head coach before. He is, like we've talked about before, like outside of Vrabel, he is the most like successful Bill Belichick Patriot way head coach that used to be like a coordinator with him. I feel like that'd be a really good hire. And it sounds like Flores has also been considered for other jobs in the market. I believe Diana Rossini said he was a name to watch for the Cowboys defensive coordinator job. But now with the Ravens open, that feels like it could be his next step back into the head coaching limelight. He has experience coaching linebackers with Mike Tomlin. So I feel like those are 1A and 1B.
Yeah, to me, it seems like Jesse Minter, there's too many connections here. I mean, too many connections, just being that he was there from 2017 to 2020. He was a Baltimore Ravens defensive assistant, obviously then coached under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. And usually well-run organizations, that's kind of how they operate. You're not straying too far from how you do things. You kind of just want to pivot a little bit. You don't do hard 180s and keep what the Ravens have had for the last, again, 26 years, 2 Super Bowls over that span, 2 head coaches. You kind of just make small incremental changes. And it feels like Jesse Minter is the small incremental change that this franchise needs at this time.
So I have a question to ask you. How many picks would it take for the Ravens to trade for Matt LaFleur?
Ooh. Now that's an interesting one. Because I don't know if you saw the report from Jay Glazer that before week 18 about what coaches are safe. It was too early to tell, is I believe the language, something of that nature, about Matt LaFleur. So I don't know if it would take that much, truthfully. I think that would be great for the Ravens. Now, I do think LaFleur, for being a great offensive mind, has shown some warts as a true head coach. But that would, I'm trying to think. I have no bearing for head coaching trades. The market for it is so small. When's the last time we had? Was it Herm Edwards? Was that the last head coach trade?
Didn't the Saints
Sean
trade Sean Payton to the Broncos?
That was a weird one though, because he was already like retired, right? So it wasn't quite the same. And what was the compensation on that? Do you remember? Or do you have
I'm looking it up now. The Broncos traded the 2023 first round pick, 2024 second round pick for Sean Payton, and the Saints 2024 third round pick.
Okay.
But
so
that first round pick, I believe, was number 29 for the Broncos.
Okay. That's hefty, but that's also a guy who was a Super Bowl winning head coach with almost 2 decades of proven experience. LaFleur's got one of the highest winning percentages in NFL history, but nothing really to show for it from there. I bet a first. Wouldn't surprise me if one first. I mean, wouldn't surprise me. I think the Packers would do it for one first.
See, if you just give up the 14th pick right now, I believe they're picking 15th. Mm-hmm. If you go to the Packers and offer that for Matt LaFleur, it would be bonkers. Like, it would truly be unprecedented in the NFL to trade a mid-first round pick for a head coach. But if you're talking about like getting an offense that would just instantly reboot itself, I think the Matt LaFleur offense, like if you can imagine the things that he ran with Jordan Love mixed with the QB run game of Malik Willis, you can do that in Baltimore. There's been a lot of stuff about Matt LaFleur's contract out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I do think if we're just saying like it's like a 1% chance.
What would you do? Best case scenario? Yeah.
Yeah. Best case scenario. That's the deal I would make.
Because I do think it's interesting that, obviously when you have a franchise quarterback, you want to pair him with a great play caller. I'm not sure there's that guy out there right now for Lamar Jackson, right? Like who are you going of any OC throughout the NFL right now that's feasibly available? Is there anyone that you're like, okay, that guy for sure would take Lamar Jackson back to MVP form?
I mean, I don't know about Clint Kubiak because like there's still some
he's never run anything like he's never had to do anything like what Lamar does, right? Like he's never had a mobile quarterback like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Cliff Kingsbury's that great. I would not want Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach, and I'm still a little wary of the sustainability of Cliff Kingsbury as an offensive coordinator. But I mean, if you want to just like emphasize Lamar's legs, like that would
He's
be
good
the
at
pick
that.
there. He's good at using.
But I'm not sure his
quarterback's
passing
leg.
game is going to mesh with Lamar. It's a
No.
lot of quick stuff that I think is not what Lamar does best.
I also don't think it would mesh with the receiving core with all the quick
That
game.
too. Yeah.
They're not quick game receivers. So outside of those two, you're kind of trying to draw a needle from a haystack. You don't really know.
Yeah. So we're on the same page where it's like, I don't think you're getting an offensive mind unless you trade a first for Matt LaFleur. Someone just said Dable in the chat, get out of here. Do not put that on the Baltimore Ravens. We're trying to keep a stable franchise. We're trying to give them a Super Bowl here. We're not
Lamar
trying to
Jackson
make them
running 30 times a game.
Yeah, we're not trying to get Lamar Jackson to play 3 games a year. We want to actually see him play. All right. Well, we'll see where they go. We'll see if any more head coaching openings open up. I didn't think this one would happen this late in time, but we'll see. We now have, 7 head coaching openings in what I think we both agree isn't the deepest of crops of coordinators to be next head coaches. So we'll see how it shakes out. We'll be back Thursday as always. Until then, keep pushing.